Hello and welcome to Flory Models Daily Show. Here we are on Tuesday, the 25th of February 2020. Yes, I might have had my hair a little bit shorter than normal, but to be honest, it would do my head in. Anyway, thank you very much for all the kind comments about the Gladiator. If you haven't gone off and seen that build, obviously the full details and the final reveal photos were up with you yesterday. I really fell in love with that kit. Now, as I said, and I've said it all the way through, I'll say it again, but World War I aircraft are not my thing. And I know that's interwar, but you know what I mean? As in biplanes, rigging and all of that. I absolutely thoroughly enjoyed that kit. If you're not, thinking your skills are up to it and stuff like that, honestly, it's a beautiful kit, as in it's very straightforward. It's not overcomplicated. It's not like a Wingnuts Wings kit where you need a degree to be able to, like with the painting and the weathering and all those things. It is a straightforward thing, and you don't have to do mass weathering onto it. Sometimes, and that's a classic example, I like to leave them factory fresh. Just something about nice clean paintwork, nice clean lines without weathering and panel lines all filled and all those things. Exactly what I did to that one. And to be honest, I managed to fit it into one of my plastic containers, display cases, and so it's dust free and it looks absolutely gorgeous in there. Very happy with that. And it's amazing because now it's next to the Wingnuts Wings kit. It's that thing, it's a lot bigger. They're both 1/32 scale, but it just goes to show you the difference in scale between, or size I should say, between the Wingnuts Wings Sopwith Camel and then obviously a Gloucester Gladiator, because obviously a lot bigger beast. Anyway, I am working very hard, as you can see, at the moment on with the actual Falcon. I've got it on the stand purely because it's easier to weather, and actually it's a nice angle as well. I can sit here and do all the things. I've literally just started working on the oil. So this has just had dark dirt and black wash right the way over the entire thing. Rubbed off, wiped off. A couple of little tips and tricks how to do that as well, how to get it out of details. Because obviously I know a lot of people is like, how do you get the wash out? It gets stuck, you can't get it out. You can, you just need a little bit of finesse with that one. So I show you in depth about doing that. And we just started in here, this panel just down in here, about actually going through and doing the sort of dirtiness work. We are going to come in with a little bit of freehand airbrushing as well, just for the weapon strikes, things like that, into this one right the way through. There's a lot to go into this yet. As I said, weathering wise, it's just straightforward with a wash right the way over it. Nothing too fancy about that. But now we're going to go in, just going to cause some three-dimensional weathering with oils, a few little washes of oils as well, just to make things pop to life. A little bit of hand painting, some detail painting, things like that going to be going into this one, and then hopefully giving us it the look. Again, it's one of those ones where obviously different films, they've got different looks. I don't want it to be a direct comparison to, obviously a New Hope or Empire or something else like that. I know it's not Empire because of the legs and all the rest of it, but you know what I mean with the weathering. I'm trying to do it as if it's in its own time period with the weathering. So I'm going to take a little bit of artistic liberties. It's what I tend to do with all of them anyway, because I like to give things my touch instead of just copying something sort of one-to-one. But it is the Falcon, and she is gorgeous, and it is fantastic, and it's the Bandai kit, and you haven't seen any of those as well, go off and see the full build on this one, because it is a stunning piece of kit. It's basically one up from Lego. It goes together with no problems whatsoever. I managed to get all these parts open to re-put the guns in, they're in now, and all things like that. So we've got the guns all installed into it, all the little bits and pieces. I have just literally in the last 10 minutes found the antenna, so that can go on as well. That needs a bit of weathering on that one as well, but it's coming along really nicely, making its way through with that one. Anyway, today it's been quite exciting with various things going on. First of all, which arrived for me, which I don't know if you can tell, but it's nice and bright in here, is because these, which are my lighting studio lights. This is the ones I've used. Now I used to have, there's a bit of a story to this one, so bear with me, but my first lights were literally those huge, big, like giant energy savers in a massive box, which took up the entire studio. Then we moved over to LEDs about sort of 7 or 8 years ago, okay, and the LED lights were really good, and I spent, well, it was £1,500 by the time with import duty and VAT and all things like that, and they were great. They were big, they were twice the size of this one, but they died. Within 5 years they've had it and they've gone. And to be honest, these are the Godox ones, which I'm using at the moment. And this particular one has been starting to lose it. I know this because I can look straight at it and look at the LEDs without being blinded. Now I can't look that way because that's the new one up there. But these ones here used to cost around about £125 for just the white light version. Okay, they do another one which has got LEDs in it. Half of them are yellow, half are white. They can be a little bit cheaper, those ones. You can pick these ones up now for around about £100. Every time the price drops, they come down and down in price and get far more affordable. And obviously, I'm assuming you at home probably don't need to have, which I run 3 of these things up above me to give us nice light so you can see all down here without big shadows and stuff like that. The great thing with these as well is that from a point of view around the back here, you've got a little LED display. You can run off battery backup. We've done that in the past. Okay, and you can set it all up and it's on a remote control and it's all very nice. But to be honest, don't use any of that. Once it's up and running, away we go, and it is there. As I said, downside is purely because these lights are on at least 15 hours a day, okay, because they're my primary lights are in the studio, they just burn out and they give out. So we were in for a new one. So having a look round, obviously things have improved, prices are getting cheaper and cheaper. So I was on Amazon like you are, and I bought some of these. These are the newer ones, so it's newer.com, go on Amazon, okay, and I bought one of these. So in here, if I do somewhat of a bit of an unboxing for you, just so seems it's like a Tall Tuesday type thing, let me just move some of these out of the way. So down in here we have our little box, and in here you get a little case, and then if we open up one of these, you end up with our nice little case down in here. You've got a little Velcro bit going on, so we just whip that open. And in here we get a little salt and shake, as I call them. Okay, and this is the bit we get. So in here you get a battery transformer pack, long cable, and it's like the kettle lead, as I call them. I don't know what the official name is, but anyway, it's in a nice padded case as well, so that's quite a nice touch with that one. Then you get this, and it's very loose at the moment because it's all in. And then if we take this out, we can see you get one of these. Now, from my point of view, I actually hang these like this, and I have them angled slightly down. I've got a rig, and this bolts to the rig, okay, and it's done this way and all the rest of it. But as you can see on here, you've got LEDs. Half of these you can probably see in here are white, half of these are yellow, okay. And then over here on the back, you've got battery packs if you did want to run off 7.2 volt batteries in here. You've got a battery mode, and then you've got a normal, and then obviously you've got for an on, and you've got a yellow dimmer, and then a white light dimmer as well. So the white light one is running at 5600K and then the yellow at 32. That's how you do it. So you could mix and match those to make up any ones you like. Now the great thing about this is, this particular one cost me £45. So in some ways that's a proper bargain. When you think I paid for the first time around, admittedly there was a lot more LEDs in the other one. It was probably 2/3 the size of this. Sorry, 2/3 bigger than this, okay? But for the price of LED lighting, it's coming down and down and down, and you could probably get away with just one of these above you, and you'll be good to go with it, okay? You've got this little sheet, and I must admit, obviously, the more expensive ones have more, you've got different colours. I think the ones with that other one came with like 6 different sheets, different colours and all the rest of it. But these literally just go in a little tray down in here, if I can get it to go in. I don't think they've got a one way. Perhaps they do, I don't know. Hold on, let me try the other way. Perhaps they just go in one way. There we go. So these literally just go in here, and you've got these little clips which pull up and push down, but to be honest, by the time you've got this screwed in, okay, you can just screw it to whatever one you want, so when it's hanging there, it's good to go. But I thought I'd mention these because they're just getting really, really cheap. You can get even cheaper ones than this, but I probably won't go any cheaper. But this actually has very, very good reviews online. So there we go. Have a look on Amazon. It is this newer, as I call it. It's in W-E-R. Okay, but you can go to newer.com. A couple of things about it. It's powered. It's 28 watts, so it's basically a DC 12 to 15 volt going in there. Bi-color, as we were saying, so it's 3200 by 56K on this one. And then obviously you've got your size as well. So my other ones are usually around about 400, so this one's a lot smaller. It's a nice little dinky one, but be honest with you, I've bought 2. I've got one there and I can't look at it because now I've just made that mistake and I've got this grid in front of me. It's brighter than my old ones and it's doing well. But the main point is that these don't last forever. They will die, you know, and obviously in this environment they don't last more than a couple of years. But when you're just talking now about 45 quid for every sort of 3 or 4 years, that's an acceptable trade-off to do with this one. Also, it's a lot smaller. So my original one, you might remember, was about that big with 2 of them. And then obviously I've got slightly smaller. So this one we did here, which is the Godox one. Okay, so we've got this one down in here, was about this size, and then obviously we've gone smaller again, but it's nice because it's not taking up the entire thing. So obviously above me I've got cameras, we've got 3 cameras above us, we've got microphone, and obviously got 3 lights. So, you know, having that. So we've got technically a spare one because this one's pretty good still up here, but I probably will replace out of it and we'll have this one up there and going through. But I thought I'd mention that one because obviously that's the equipment we're using. We have making a bit of investment into the company. I've got new cameras coming, or hopefully. We've got new cameras on their way as well. So we've got running 4K right the way through and all the rest of it, but we can do progressive and various things with those ones, which are quite handy for doing zooming in. So it's done in editing, not now. So for instance, like from above at the moment we're running 2 cameras, so we've got one as an overall, then we have a close-up. So hopefully what we'll be able to have is 2 of the 4K running at 1080, but we can zoom in, you see, so you can crop in and do it that way. So that's the plan with it. So hopefully we'll get better angles. So investing in a new camera up there because we've got one 4K up there because the other one died, and then we've obviously got a 1080, so that'll stop that problem and we'll be good to go with that one. So we've got that on the go. So that's what I've had in. Also, because we're on a roll today, these are my latest and greatest find. These are Posca. I've probably mutilated that. I have no idea how you actually pronounce it. I'm just guessing. Pens. Okay, the great thing about these is they're paint. Now, the reason I bought these is that I saw a guy doing a drawing, an artist piece of work, on a piece of glass. And I'm thinking, if you can use pens on glass, they've got to be good, because let's face it, they bead up and they're just not nice, you know, at all with any type of paint on glass. But these worked really well. So the idea with this is, you know, on something like this especially, but also with cockpit details, things like that, you can just come along and put them in. So obviously we'll start with the white. So you just put them in, give them a good old shake and all the rest of it, and then you can come down and then you could pick out, if you wanted to, things in white. And look how well this stuff covers. This covers absolutely gorgeous. So again, you can do your lines and various things. So if you wanted to come in and do things like that, hopefully you can see that, how well that goes. All right, but if you wanted to, obviously you can come in and do black. So we've got a black one here as well. So if you were doing this type of thing, you can just literally brush this across. And again, if you want to do brake lines and hoses, you can just literally come in and draw them in, which is like an absolute bonus. But again, they do golds. So if you wanted to, you can come in and do gold lines or whatever you want to do. But these are great. They got fantastic coverage. They do come in different flavors. Obviously we've got a silver one as well down in there, but hopefully you can see those different ones. But what I'm thinking is they'd be absolutely great for things like cockpit detail. So if you're inside, you know, a cockpit and you want to do switches, if you want to do harnesses, things like that, you could use these. Now I've just got a basic set. And again, they work out around about sort of £1.50 a pen or something if you buy them in sets. They get a bit more expensive if you buy them individually. They're about £3 a pen, but they're still quite cheap. They do them in different sizes as well. This is what they call the M series. So the M series is basically 0.7mm nibs. They do an MR, which I think is 0.5 mil nibs, and they do a big fat one, which is like painting, okay, and everything. And also they do something like 27 colours. So I've got down in here a black, a white, a silver and a gold. It came in a set of 4 off of Amazon. The great thing is you can go off and buy the entire set, which has got loads of colours. But the thing is with these is, one, it's got a white, which is really nice, but it's more akin to, you know, it's like paint coming out of a pen. So you've got all the coverage of paint, but you've got all the control of a pen. So I actually really like these ones. I'd say I've only tested them on a couple of things yet. I am going to have a whirl on the Falcon with it as well, because down in between the buns, as I call it, there's lots of detail in there we can go in and do various things too. So I was thinking that's why we got these, get in there. But I'm just thinking cockpits be so much easier to pick out switches and various things, because at the moment I tend to use my gel pens like these ones, and they're okay and they do the job, don't get me wrong, but they're not as good, I think, as what I've seen on there. So anyway, I saw a fantastic gentleman doing this beautiful piece of artwork. He's a very clever, talented artist with these on glass, and I thought, do you know what, that's fine. Apparently they're great on glass, fabric, plastic, metal, wood, you name it, they will go over anything. The way he described them was, he calls them the Sharpie of paint. So he said all the benefits are like a Sharpie would be in an ink, but these are like more like a paint, but they work really well. But they've got a ball bearing in, so you just shake them up, press them down, lock them in a couple of times, it flows through, you'll see it come down the nib, and you're good to go. The only thing you do have to make sure is you close the lid properly, because they do dry out apparently. So just be a little bit mindful on those ones, all right? So anyway, that's those. And at last, the delivery from PM Stores has arrived. So we've got a couple of things we're going to be reviewing this week. So we've got the Avro Vulcan. This is the Mark II, the new one by Trumpeter, 144 scale. So nice to see that one. We've got this little gem, which we've been on about these for a while now. So finally managed to get hold of myself one here. So it's the 72nd F14A Tomcat. Nice in the puking dog markings. And good old capo. Whatever they call themselves these days. This is the MiG-19. Again, really nice at 72nd scale. Looks to be fantastic. Matt assures me they're beautiful. So I've got to review them, so I will do that. Matt and the guys are down here next week. Okay, so we're going to do an auction. So we have got a bit of a blind auction coming for you guys on Monday night. And then obviously the guys will be down as well. So we'll be doing various bits and pieces whilst they're down here as well. So that's quite a good one. Matt will be with me tomorrow for the kit show. We'll be talking about all the releases, obviously his holiday and everything else like that. And then the guys will be back on with Thursday night, so forth and so on as we make our way through. Okay, one of the questions I saw, because it's a bit of a Q&A day, I've got lots of questions here, which I'll go through some of them. Some we'll do today, some we won't, but that's by Stefan, who's sent me a message. First up, talking about airbrushes. Some of you were talking about the airbrush running on. Okay, so this is the bit where you push down for air and you let go and it just keeps going. Okay, so again, there's a couple of reasons for that, and I have explained it in depth lots and lots of times before on the Harder and Steenbeck airbrushes, and that is down in here where you have the actual air stem coming up. You can undo it, and there's I've hopefully got some footage here, but there is a little off the air stem, a little O-ring that goes at the top. That, if it gets something on it, it can swell up and it tightens up and it causes trouble. Because literally it just, well, it doesn't work. It just carries on because it can't travel back up. What you can actually do is slacken off to help it, just slacken off a tiny bit of pressure off of the body. Now the thing is, this particular airbrush doesn't have it because it doesn't come apart, because all the option you've got is in there. And that's like a sealed unit down in there. So you can't really do much down in there. But what I do advise though, purely because I did mine, well, let's say, when did I do mine? A few weeks ago. I was just finding the trigger a little bit tense, shall we say. So what we do is we'll just whip the back out, and I'll show you what it is. Okay, so you just take that out, take that bit out, and then what you want to do is, like there, when I pulled that out, it was a bit of a pull to get it out. Sometimes, and I don't know if we've got anything on here that you can actually see, but you get a little bit of build up down the side here, okay, and that can just foul slightly down in here, and I don't know how much you can see down in there. Hopefully I've got a little bit of B-roll footage because I recorded it as I did it, okay, out there. But what you want to do is really get in there and clean that out. So what you can actually do is just pop in there with a little bit of airbrush cleaner and give it a wipe round and all the rest of it. You can lube it. I'm not a fan of lubing these days, who misses, purely because I find that the dirt sticks to the lube. So I used to use needle juice, super lube, WD-40, no, don't use WD-40, I'm joking, but silicone sprays, things like that. But you find that dirt, dust, and especially when you're airbrushing, there's a lot of dust around, gets attracted to it, and then it just makes it to a tarry mess, and it can actually stop things going, okay? So that is the thing. So just have a look down in there, make sure, but you can, if you want to, obviously give it a little bit of a clean out. When you're reassembling it, make sure that you put the little divot, this little cutaway in the back, faces rear, because that enables you to get full draw on the trigger. Getting this back in, well, there you go, first time. So what happens is you push down, and as you can see, the pin comes out the bottom, okay, and it's that pin that is releasing the air that comes up and down the side. So putting this back together, you just have this little guy with the foot at the top. That foot then pushes in at the top on there. Okay, and then we got this one with the spring and the various bits and pieces. So that just screws in the back. Make sure it's very tight. Okay, make sure it goes all the way in, because if it's hanging out a bit, you have load of trouble. And it should be then snappy, up and down. Okay, when you get air coming in, you'll find that this is even more snappy. Okay, then you can put your collet on the back. Then you can pop your needle in. Note to self, clean airbrush before demoing Flory. Okay, just pops in like that. On the back, on the bottom, and then you just want it to be really on and off. And if you hear any hissing like then, just make sure you're tight at the bottom. But of course you can put in a little bit, but if you have got the air going in, it will push up the trigger a little bit more than normal. But you know, we're all good, happy there. But you're just looking for that snappiness right the way through. Okay, so again, it's just one of those ones where tiny little bit of maintenance in there and you'll be good to go. And there was a few comments about the airbrush and stuff like that. They all do it. This is general stuff. It's a bit like people complaining when the brakes wear out in a car and then somebody saying my Audi never does that. It depends how you use it, you know, that is the thing. You get some people use their triggers and obviously their airbrushes differently to others, or stop starting, things like that. There's so many different variables with airbrushing. I think that's the thing, that, you know, you can't just call out and say one particular airbrush has got this particular fault, because obviously it depends on who's using it, how they're using it, and various things like that right the way through. I am an animal with airbrushes as well, you know. Clearly that thing hasn't been cleaned out since, well, this was painted. Okay, so from that point of view, you think it's like been sat there grubby and it's still fine. I'm still on the original needle and nozzle set for that thing. Never had to replace anything yet. It's doing absolutely fine, and that's it. So we're now 2 years in with that, and it's never been, I've never taken the nozzle off apart from when I very first had it, just to have a look at it. That shows how good that airbrush is. That's not to say I still don't like the harder Steenbecks, as you know I do. They're great for daily drivers, stuff like that. If I needed two airbrushes on the go, I would just grab my Infinity and we'll use that as we make our way along with that one. Anyway, I do have a couple of questions as well to go through. This is from Sebastian. He's asked me a few questions and I will cover these when I do the Bite Size series. So obviously the Bite Size series, as soon as this thing's out of the way this week, I'm going to be getting on with those. And then obviously we'll do a few next week, so forth and so on and so before. And he goes, I know you don't consider yourself a master, but I'd like to see how you do normal brushing. Things like this, you don't use the paint as it is from the bottle. Do you thin it? Okay, now as you said, I am by no means an expert on hand painting, and especially when it comes to figure painting and all those things. I can only give you general advice on how I use it. But if I did, or was to, shall we say, paint anything, what I do tend to do is I'll use a flow improver or a paint retarder. So from that point of view, this is one that I use quite a lot, which is a nice paint retarder. And then I have got in here somewhere, it says, my very old bottle of favourite, which I've had for years now, which is a flow improver. If you put a drop of that into acrylic paint, it just slows down the drying time. And what that means is you don't get as many brush marks, because the brush marks have all got time to level out. Also, thinning it a little bit with these will help. You don't need to run in there and come in with things like self-leveling thinners and all things like that, because you're putting this into it. And these are technically oils, and it's the oils which slow down the drying time. Okay, so you won't have to do too much. The other one as well we often speak about is using just general airbrush cleaner. Using Vallejo airbrush cleaner is great. It's got a retarder into it as well. It helps to thin it a little bit and it just goes on. But the usual thing is light thin coats and just build up and go for it like that. Don't flood it down heavy and just pushing it around and stuff, because that's what I used to do. Okay, but I'll be honest, I do not hand paint, as you know, apart from the smallest details. I tend to airbrush absolutely everything because I am terrible at hand painting. The other one, this is maybe super obvious or trivial, but I'd also like to see how you sand primer. I've just gotten a bottle of the AK microfiller. For the first time in my country, I've been using Vallejo. I would like to understand how much you sand and what grit you use, etc. So when you're sanding down primer work, normally that's because you found perhaps a blemish or there's a small problem with it or something else like that. And because you're in that primer stage, I'm assuming it's going to be a very small problem. Otherwise, you would have spotted it before, okay? But that's assume you've got something down on here and it's like a ghost filler mark or something that's going on with it. What I would tend to use is obviously, if it's a lighter one like this, is a sponge. Okay, the nice thing about using a sponge over, you know, something with a hard one like a fine sander or something else like that is that they're quite aggressive. Okay, when you're coming in and you're doing something in here, I don't even know if this will sand. It's had so many coats under this, probably Buster is not the one to test it on. But normally when you're coming in, what I'll do is I'm trying to find something like, so under here we have like a fingerprint going on in here. Okay, so what I would do is we'll just come in and we're just going to come across and we're going to lightly go at it and just sanding through, and you can see the black coming through. Okay, so that's just coming through, and then what we'll do is we'll just go across and see if we can lose it, because you're using a sponge, it's going to blend the area all around it. The trouble is if you come in with like a sanding sponge, a sanding stick, it will do it, but when you're doing it, as you can see, it's very dimensional, it's just there. You know, it's not doing the entire area and making it all nice and smooth. So whilst it will take off, perhaps if you've got some high areas and things like that, you could just use it just for that area. I would highly suggest just sticking with a sponge and just lightly sanding. Okay, and we're going down through the silver now. It's going to be like archaeology this, we're going to end up down to wherever. Okay, and you can just take it out and then you're just feeling it. You're feeling it, see if it's smooth and how it actually is, okay? And then bash out your sponge on your trousers or whatever you want to use and you can come through. Now, if you come to something like here, we've got a small seam line going on here, what you can do is use the sander, all right? Just place it over, okay? And just using it for that area alone. And then you can just sand. To be honest, I think this would probably need a filler job. And then we're just going to go 45 degrees to the area. Let's clean that out. Okay, and we just go back and forth. Okay, and then we're just going to come back in with that sponge to blend right the way over. Okay, and you're just going to keep going at it. And again, you're not specifically tied to this area. You can see we're going down through the other areas of that now as we're making our way through. And again, it's just that thing of gently. But when you feel across it, I can't feel the beginning and end. It's all just in one. But like these blemishes down in here, this would be the same type of technique. So maybe you want to just take off the edges with a sanding stick just to wear it down. So where you can start to eat through. Okay, so you're just taking off the high bits. Okay, just like that. And then back to the sponge. Bash that out, okay. And then we're just going to go over. And the idea is that the difference, there's no real difference in height to it. So when you are sanding it, you can just take it all out in one. Okay, and that's the nice thing about using a sponge over using anything else. So if we just go down in here. And then this will be good enough then to prime again, right back over it. And there we go, that's those gone and out the way now, just like that. Okay, and again, feeling it, I can't feel anything. It just feels smooth now, no problem at all. But again, I prefer to use a sponge when you're doing anything. And to be honest with you, a couple of people mentioned it and I really should have shown it, but it was a 2-second job. That was it. It was that sponge, which probably's got silver on it. There we go. That's got silver on it. And that's where we had the super glue, and I'd super glued the stick to the wing, popped it off, there was a tiny little bit there, little tiny rub over. We went down to the primer and into the plastic, and then we just blew across it, and that was it. I never even touched it. Didn't have to. It looked absolutely fine, so we didn't have to worry about that at all. Okay, he also says, I also find complicated when I have an aircraft with the canopy open, what is the best way to achieve that without gluing it? How to make it hold the canopy part and then remove it, etc. Again, did it on the actual Gladiator. So what you can actually do is PVA glue it temporarily in place. Okay, so that's exactly what we did. So you just use a tiny bit of PVA glue. You could just use normal household glue, but again, I prefer, here it is, Micro Sol. You know, it's the same one that glues the main canopy in, but just very sparingly. And when we say sparingly, it's just tiny little smidge, okay? And then just pop that on. Smidge is just a tiny little line, okay? And then just pop that on, pop the canopy on, get rid of the over, you know, because it might posh out the sides, and then leave it. Then once you're done, you might find you can just peel it off. If not, a tiny little blade in there, just on that seam, and you'll find it come off. The great thing with PVA glue is once you've taken it off, you can scrape clean the excess PVA glue that's left on there since you removed it, to take it off. So that's exactly what we did to the Gloster Gladiator. Have a look at that particular video, build on that, and you'll see me do it. I do show it in the actual video about doing it. But sometimes you have trouble with canopies because the tabs that keep them open are usually bigger than the canopy and they can overlap. So what I usually do is I'll just overlap them a little bit, and if there's a little bit of a gap around it, sometimes overspray between the canopy and the inside of the cockpit isn't a bad thing. So if you've got a canopy rail at the top, you know, so this is where the canopy goes on. Sometimes they have holes in them or whatever it is, so it can latch and pull in, okay? Sometimes getting a little bit of overspray in there's quite natural because that's what they would have in real life, okay? So it's not like a black perfect line. Normally they're weathered and you can dry brush them and stuff like that as well. So if you do get a little bit, just goes under there a bit, it's not really a problem because by the time you did it, but if you wanted to, you could just pop back in, repaint the tops there to give you a sharper edge if that's what you wanted. Okay, riveting a circular area like on an aircraft fuselage, always complicated. I would like to see how you can do it without using fancy or hard to find tools. Here in Argentina, it's very complicated to get stuff. Right, okay, so for that, it is a tool, but it's a very good one I use, which is basically, I've got to try and find it. If I can find one, here's one. Okay, it's basically a riveting guide. Hopefully you can see it in here. So what it's got is teeth all the way round. So what happens is, hold on, Buster, you're on a workout today. You're about to get riveted. Okay, you can take your stabby tool, as I call it. No, that's not a stabby tool, that's a trumpeter one. Where's my other one? Hold on, pull everyone. Okay, there's lots of different ones out there, but as I say, this is just literally a point. Okay, so you can take your, let's find out, flapped it on Buster. Okay, so these ones come in different shapes and sizes. This is like 1/48 scale, and obviously this is a bigger one, but you just do the one to how it is, all right? So if we do this one here, so you put it in place, or you could tape it in place, or whatever you do, and you might notice it's got teeth on here right the way around it. So all you do is you go into the tooth and push, go across to the next one and push, go across to the next one and push, and you just go along, and using this as a guide, this will put in, crikey, that light above me is so strong I can't see it. Okay, all the ones. Okay, so you just come up then with a ring of rivets in a circle. So if this did have a panel with a circle in it, that's how you put them in. So you've got these ones down in here, these are various sizes, and obviously you've got the ones with the ovals and stuff like that. So this was by, and I can't remember who this was even by, I've had this for years and years and years. Okay, but there is various ones out there, but there's lots of householdy type things that sometimes have little divots in them as well. Okay, because I know people use saw blades for straight edges, because that's an easy way of doing it. I'm just going along and do it. I've done it myself. Okay, that's doing it that way. If you wanted to as well, you can actually print off templates of it, and then you just put the paper over the top and just go right the way through the paper. So you can go online, and there is ones on there, and you can just then print them off, and then all you do is then put the paper over and then just stab through the paper. That's another way of doing it. I was seeing a guy the other week, and he was actually doing it for riveting on a wing and just using it through the paper, which I actually thought that's a good way of doing it, and one way I should have done it. Instead of like working it all out, you can actually just put the paper over the entire wing and just rivet over the top of it. Smart. Think smart when you're doing these things. Okay, but that's it. But again, there is various things out there, I'm sure there is, but you can, the cheapest and easiest way for doing it from that is just to print them off, okay, and do it that way. And that way as well, if you're printing them off yourself, you can rescale it to the scale that maybe worked best for you. So that might be another one as well. Okay, and if he can think of any more, he'll let me know. Thank you, Sebastian. Great questions this week. They're all thanks to Sebastian. So well done, mate. Lovely questions on that one. Anyway, there you go. That is it from me, because I want to get on and weather this one. And being Shrove Tuesday, I've got to make pancakes. So I'll be making up my batter mix shortly as well for something for dinner. So pancakes for dinner, everyone. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. As always, it's been a pleasure. I'll catch you tomorrow at 2 o'clock, between 2 and 3 for the Phil and Matt show. Yes, I'm sorry. Nathan's had to go back to Thursday night because unfortunately Matt's home. So we've got to go back with Matt. No problem. Anyway, we will catch you all then. So if you want to join us live, join in with a live discussion. We'll be talking kits. We'll be talking all things Tornado, because we've got to try and get hold of a load. That's just a small hint, and things like that. Right, I'm going to put the rest of my lights up. I'm still blinded by that one. I'm going to have to turn that one down a bit. It is a bit bright. But I will catch you all live with me and Matt at 2 o'clock, obviously in the live chat room, and we'll be broadcasting live as always on YouTube if you want to catch up and watch us on YouTube as well. So till tomorrow, everybody. Happy modelling. Take care.